Hey guys, Sandy here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I am playing with the Rainbow Builder stamp set and a couple of embossing powders from Brutus Monroe. Now, I am actually not going to be using this as a rainbow. I'm just going to use all of these arches to create a fun background. So let's see what I can do. Alright guys, so I took the time to take just about every single arch of the rainbow and kind of just place it over here on my white piece of paper. Now I did make sure to keep it within a 6x6 block. That way I could turn the paper clockwise until I had it stamped on all 4 quadrants of my paper. So I am using the Brutus Monroe clear embossing ink to go ahead and do this, and I'm not going to make you watch me put clear embossing ink down on a stamp and stamp it down 4 times in a row. It's a little bit tedious, and you really can't see it in the video that great anyway. It's like there's not a great amount of product there. Like, you know, it's like invisible ink basically. So I am just going to make sure that all 4 quadrants are done with these half rings, because that's how I am interpreting these rainbow arches today, guys. These are rings. They are not rainbows. So sometimes you just have to look at your products and kind of cock your head to the side and squint a little bit, and then you're like, oh, I can use that in a completely different way that it's not intended for. So I go ahead and get those down there, and then I'm going to do a couple little ring arches here in the center so I don't have this big kind of white expansive empty space right there. And then I'm going to grab my embossing powders and I'm going to go ahead and emboss. Now, I will tell you, I am going to ultimately mix these powders. So if that is not your thing, then this is definitely not the technique for you. But basically, I put the embossing powders down, and now I'm just going to kind of cover them up all about the page. And then I'm just going to use the mixed embossing powders as well, and I'm just going to make sure that I have that completely covered. I'm going to grab my heat tool, and then I'm going to kind of heat tool these bad boys up until they're nice and smooth and melty. And you have a couple of distinct colors going on. I have the mermaid tail, I have the sterling, I have the Scowlene, and then I have the mixture where they're all kind of mixed together. And I love this effect. Now, maybe if I would have thought about it and thought it through, I could have used the differing colors that are actually on your rings in your Apple Watch. But I really wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking that I would really like to mix these colors together because I love the silver and the blue and the black together. I think it's a great, great color combination. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that everything is nice and smooth and melty, and the magic has completely happened with that embossing powder. And now I am going to make me some photo mats. So I have the black pearl paper pad, and I also have this mixed media stencil. So I grabbed 2 colors of Distress Oxide, and a green and a purple, and I'm just going to go ahead and put some ink down through my stencil, enough that I'm going to be able to make a photo mat. And I'm going to do it twice with the stencil. And I'm not really concerned about blending together. That's not my motive here. I just want the colors, because I think that these colors on top of the colors that I've picked for my embossed rings are going to look pretty nice together. Plus that black pearl paper pad, the combination between that and the embossed areas and the stenciled areas, I just love it. Like, I think it comes together really beautifully. So I go ahead and do it a second time, and I'm just using a bit of washi tape to hold that stencil down to my white cardstock. And now I'm going to go ahead and trim these down. So my photos, I have 2 4x4 photos. I'm pretty sure that this gets trimmed down to 4.5 by 4.5 inch squares. And then the black pearl paper pad, I'm not exactly sure. Is that what I'm trimming this down to? Let's take a peek. Oh no, I trimmed those down to 4 inches. I must trim down the photos a little bit more then. So these are 4 inches, and then I grab the pearl paper pads here, and then you can see like it has the blues, the greens, the blacks, the purples. So I feel like all of the combinations together are just going to be beautiful. So I trimmed this down. What am I trimming this down to? 4.5. So I must trim down the photos to 3 3/3 by 3/3. It's got to be. Now I'm going to overlap these bad boys. I'm going to have the rings of the rainbow stencil go in one direction on one of the photo mats, and then I will have them go in the other direction on the other photo mat. And this is just a picture of my rings while I was doing a drive up one day at work. So now I've got them overlapped, and I'm going to figure out where I want my rings and my layout to go. So I trim down the white cardstock here, and then I'm just going to add some distress ink around the edges. I'm using the purple color, and I don't always ink my edges. I actually go through phases where I ink edges a lot and then where I don't ink edges at all. And I just felt like this was a good moment to have an inked edge. I'm going to place it down on top of a black sheet of cardstock, and then I'm going to go ahead and figure out where in the world I want my photos to go. So I do want them off to the left over here, and I'm going to find the Watercolor Galaxy paper pad, and I go ahead and trim that guy down. And what I am going to do is grab a punch from my stash. It is the Humper Punch. I can't not call it a Humper Punch anymore because it makes little humps. And I'm going to go ahead and do that across the entire 6x6 page. I'm going to trim that down, and then I'm going to repeat the process. And what that's going to do is allow me to create a longer scalloped edge border than I would have been able to do with just a 6x6 piece of paper. So I am going to overlap these papers together, and then I'm going to cover up that join. It's going to be camouflage, so you're not going to notice that the Watercolor Galaxy does not exactly match up from side to side. So I just figure out a good place to do that. I add some adhesive, and then I'm going to go ahead and place that down on my page. Now I do make it go all the way to the left hand side of the page while I leave that right hand side open. Now that was a conscious choice to do that. I didn't want it to be a divided page. I wanted that kind of that white space open and free right there. So it just kind of looked like rings all over the place. So I go ahead and get my photos going there, but I feel like, something is missing. I do pull these up a little bit and decide to ink the edge because there is a bit of a white raw edge on those scallop circles, and I just felt like I needed to add a little bit more color there. Now I do have these Simple Stories Color Vibes letter stickers, and I thought I was going to use white for this layout. I don't have the letters in white that I want to spell, and I don't have the letters that I can Frankenstein to spell as well. So I went ahead and pulled out the blue ones. I haven't opened these yet, so opening them for the first time. Now I do keep all of my 6x12-ish size letter stickers in its original packaging. The only thing I do is trim the right hand side of the packaging, and then I store them horizontally on my shelf. And that way, if the letter stickers get loose, they don't fall out and get lost because the open side is facing up. So I'm going to go ahead and spell out the word rings. I also have the Bourbon Street sequins that I pulled out. They have a gorgeous purple and green kind of color scheme to them. And I'm going to use the purple ones. Now I decided that I needed a little bit more pizzazz on top of my scalloped border here. So I grab this washi tape, and this washi tape is from Brutus Monroe, but I don't know if it's still available. I bought it a little while ago, but it is a holographic washi tape, and I felt like it totally went with the kind of shining, shimmering, splendid of the embossed rings in that background. So I am going to place a purple sequin on each of the scalloped humpy things right here in the bottom. I go to my stash and get some tiny, tiny little letter stickers so that I can complete my title. And the title is now going to be Closing Rings. So these rainbows might not be complete circle, like portions of circles, but I think that the intention is there and you can kind of see it. And it kind of looks like, you know, incomplete rings. To me it does. So now I need to figure out what I am going to do. I need a place to add my journaling. I don't want to journal directly over top of all of my beautiful embossing. So I just trim down a sheet of white cardstock. I go ahead and ink the edges of that bad boy too, since I went ahead and inked the edges of the outside of the foreground paper. And then I take the other color, Distress Oxide, and just add some ink to the stamps that are already in the MISTI, and I'm just going to go ahead and stamp this paper as well. I didn't want like a stark white background to journal on. I wanted a little bit of something there, so went ahead and did that with the rings. Now I'm thinking I can do a little bit more with the rings. There has to be some other way that I can add some embellishment with this thought of unclosing the rings on my watch. So I try a couple of the stamps and I'm like, yeah, you know what, this is gonna work. So I go ahead and grab another little sheet of white cardstock. I am going to run my embossing powder bag over this as well. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but I did use my anti-static powder tool over top of the white 12 by 12 cardstock that I originally stamped and embossed on. And now I'm just picking a few of the rainbow arches that I have already on the MISTI. I'm going to go ahead and position them so that I will be able to fussy cut them out. So I go ahead and do that. I'm going to emboss these guys as well. And that is just because I want it to pop. Like, I don't want to just put regular old ink on these and then it not pop against the background that's already got that shining, shimmering, splendid embossing on it. I do use a little bit of the Scowlene embossing powder, and then I'm just going to go ahead and use my heat tool and use it on there until it is nice and smooth and melty. I'm going to go ahead and put that embossing powder back into its bucket. Now, none of the mixed embossing powders went into the buckets, guys, so I did not, while I might have contaminated the embossing powders that I was playing with, I did not contaminate my embossing powder buckets. So now I'm going to fussy cut these little half rings out. I do leave some of the cardstock kind of where the inside of the ring would go, and that's just so that it gives me a little bit of an extra place to go ahead and adhere these half bits down. I do emboss the edges again, and now I'm just going to create a little cluster right here between the photo and the journaling card, and then I'm also going to put some up here at the top of the photo. And I just think that this is adorable. Like, this is one of those layouts where I am completely pleased with myself and my creativity. Do you guys have those layouts where you're just like, I am one creative chick? And that's the way I feel right now. So I am going to go ahead and journal about closing my rings and doing drive up and how epic it is. And then that is going to do it, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And of course, I will have links to the products that I use so you can check them out as well. And I will see you guys again real soon for another video.